Did we do remote COVID like the show? The show.
When COVID hit, did y'all do some remote stuff? Yeah.
We at first, because nobody was really allowed to do anything.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we definitely, and it sounded like garbage. but if it wasn't for COVID,
yeah,
like Zoom would not be what it is.
Oh, yeah.
And it wouldn't have given us the ability to do so much more now.
I agree. Yeah.
And I'm very familiar with your podcast.
Yeah.
You've been doing it. I didn't know it's 5 years though.
Mm-hmm.
Americana podcast, right?
Yeah, Americana podcast. Yeah.
Why did you start that podcast?
Well, Clara was one who kind of dragged me kicking and screaming into it because I had done a Sirius XM show for a little while, and I realized how much work it was, and I said, this is a lot of work. She said, we can do this, So I thought, well, one of the things that happens when you're like, a touring musician is you really isolate yourself from all the rest of the music. People think you see music all the time, but you every once in a while you walk up the side of the stage and watch somebody play or watch a support act. And I was just completely disconnected with the music of the time. And I started thinking about that. I thought, well, this is a good way for, to educate myself about like what's going on. And so we started, and it went pretty well right off the bat. We got to use the studios at Texas Monthly for about 2 months, and that was really good. And people would want to go to Texas Monthly, because it's that magazine. So we had a really good start, and then we just kept it going. We had some bumps along the way.
What's a bump? What's that?
I mean, like just some time lags on things like that, and not being able to like hit it like, every month or every 2 weeks or whatever we had going on.
That's a big part of how hard it is to do a podcast is consistently doing the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
With me, I'm doing the national radio show 5 days a week. I'm doing this podcast once or twice a week. I have a sports show.
Mm-hmm.
But of all of that, it's not always creating content. It's like just being able to be there and schedule and do.
Right. Yeah, yes, absolutely.
What did you learn? Because again, you're someone who spent their entire career like writing and creating, but now on a different medium. Like, what did you learn?
Well, I learned that I was too narcissistic to ask a lot of questions, so I need to learn how to listen to people and ask the right questions. And also, I started out with like notes and stuff, and then I realized that I would be looking at my notes and I wouldn't be listening. And so I finally just kind of threw the notes away and doing like what we're doing here is just talk. And, sometimes you stumble in some real magic. Sometimes it just goes on, but you can continue to do that as much. I mean, thank God for editing and things like that. You can just take out some of those slow parts.
And also thank God for technology that, you can get a kit and you can do a podcast at a kitchen table.
Uh-huh. Right. No.
And it sounds good. And as long as what you're saying makes sense, people are happy with it.
Absolutely. And that is the thing is some of the consistency about it. It's like not only just timing, but sound as well.
What'd you do today?
Today I barely got up in the morning, I think.
Have you had a whole because my expectation with you is I lived in Austin for 12, 13 years.
Did you really?
Yeah. So that to me is like my relationship with getting to know you and knowing you while you didn't know me. That whole creepy fan thing.
Yeah.
But I lived in Austin forever and you're part of the fabric there still.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know your relationship with Nashville now. So I would just expect when you're here, you were just like doing lots of press or
we filled up our day yesterday, and then this morning was really a catch-up day. Was just trying to see what else is in front of us, and we're doing this show in Knoxville on Saturday at the Tennessee Theater. So the band and all those guys are flying in tomorrow, so we're just kind of getting ready for them.
I mean, I have a lot of stuff to talk about that I've, as you said, I made some notes on stuff, but I don't always get to them because I like to listen to what you're saying and kind of go.
Sure.
And you mentioned the band, and without notes, if I mess up some of this, just correct me before you tell the story. But so I have the new project, right?
Mm-hmm.
Song called Waves. Okay, one of your band members wrote the song, and it feels to me from listening to you, knowing you, and my Texas version, but then going and doing a bit of a deeper dive, that you're very band oriented, even though it's your name up front. You're still very much band oriented, which is not always the case. So you have a member of your band that wrote that song Waves, and it's on the record. I don't see a lot of people doing that. Why that?
The point was, I wanted to do something that was different than a lot of other people. And I am very band oriented. I've always paid. They have a salary based on the amount of shows and stuff, and so they had insurance and a retirement program all the way back into the '90s. So I've always, and also when I got into this, when I started getting into a band thing, Bobby, I listened to other musicians. That part I did listen to. I listened to other musicians, and they would say, well, we don't ever get to play on the records, and we get pushed aside. We get the lousiest hotel rooms and stuff. And I thought, well, why can't you get those things? And people don't want to do that. Well, I mean, it's in some ways it's just like a regular business, and if people are crying for certain things that they need or they feel like they need, then I saw no reason that you couldn't go ahead and start it that way. Fortunately, I did start it that way, because backing up and trying to catch up with it is really difficult, because then all of a sudden you're counting your pennies and stuff going, yeah. So we got to the COVID thing, and I kept everybody on salary and on insurance. And then after about 2 months, I realized that we were all still well and had this place out in the country. So I said, let's come on out here and rehearse. So we rehearsed for a little while. And then I had this lightning bolt moment one evening, like when the sun was going down, the moon was coming up, and the stars were all shining. And I wrote this song, Western Chill. And then I wrote 4 more songs that same night that all fit in there. And so when they came back the next time for the rehearsal, I said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this thing where we're going to do, it's all band inclusive. You guys bring your songs, I'll bring my songs. We all sit around and jam like we were doing, like if we were on the porch, or, like just meeting each other and just jam. And so they were going, real skeptical. They were going, so like we bring our songs to you and then you learn them and you sing them. I said, no, man, you sing them. We're doing them your way. You can produce this song any way you want to do it, but we're all in on this, and we're all going to talk about how to make this work. And it's all going to be under this one umbrella, the Western Chill umbrella. And hopefully everything fits. And sure enough, I mean, the guys brought these songs, all of them wrote. And so they brought these songs that were just fit. I keep using this analogy. It was like a giant jigsaw puzzle that every piece was really easy to put in. You just go plonk, plonk, and there you go. And here's a jigsaw puzzle. So we put it all together. There was only one outlier. The bass player writes a lot of songs, and he was the biggest basketball fan in the world. I mean, huge, just basketball all the time. That's all he thinks about. Other than music, here's basketball. So he says, I don't know, you might not like this one. This is not really that Western Chill, but I think we can make it that way. And he sang me a song called Why Kawhi, because Kawhi Leonard? Yeah, Kawhi Leonard left the Spurs and went
to Toronto?
Yes.
And then the Clippers? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was like, why? And after he finished, I said, Bill, that's a really great song, but I don't really feel like it fits the format.
That's hilarious. What a funny name, too. Why Kawhi? That's fun. Like a sad song.
Oh, yeah.
About Kawhi leaving.
He was brokenhearted.
Did you have any mentors when you were a young writer, artist?
Guy Clark helped me out some. I mean, Guy was kind of late to the party, but as far as that goes, because I went and toured for Guy in towns for on and off for about 18 months, and it was really good. So I got to see them and get that. But Guy was always a little skeptical of like what I was doing, which is kind of just always the way it is anyway. But and then one day he just was like, "Man, that song, I'm going to take you around," and he took me around to some different publishers, and it got me to play some stuff for people and stuff like that. So, yes, definitely him. There was a guy that I was in a play with called, oddly enough, back when I lived in Austin, called Nashville Road. So I was Jasper Joe Douglas, the singing dishwasher in this. And the guy who was the prologue to that was a guy named J.D. Hutchison. He was from Barnesville High. And J.D. probably had more influence on me than anybody, because he was just a hillbilly genius, just one of these guys that just soaked up all kinds of information, was brilliant, could do anything, any kind of art. He could play any kind of instrument. And so he was terrible with money. So he lived with me for about a year. We lived together, and he was really, instrumental in just like at writing songs and just, and taking time off and the whole thing. He was just a really wonderful human being. So I'd say that would be, he had a band called the Hutchison Brothers, went out to California like in the early 70s, but didn't have much luck. Anyway, he was a great guy and he taught me a lot.
Do you find that any of the artists now use you as that kind of mentor or have used you as that because they looked up to you and then you did kind of what Guy did, like you showed an appreciation for their work, so they felt like they could lean on you a little bit?
Yeah, I have some good connections with specifically the Texas artists like Cody Canada and Randy Rogers and I made a record together. It was kind of a disaster, but we still made a record together. And then it was under the Stryker Brothers. It was like we made up this big yarn about how we were in prison and nobody knew where these tapes were, and we found these tapes. It just all fell apart because everybody knew who the hell we were as soon as we opened our mouths. You could hear it, right? So that was the deal. And then, I get on. People ask me to be on part of their deal, and so I'm connected with that. But I'm really connected with the Nashville thing as well because I've been part of BMI for 25 years, and I always go to the songwriters thing down there in Key West. We just got back from that a few weeks ago, and they used to have a thing called Country in the Rockies that I did. So I know a lot of songwriters here, and I've written with a lot of them, and also I had a deal a few years ago where I just had a little publishing deal where they brought people to me that they knew really liked my stuff, that they, like Brent Cobb or somebody like that, and just lots of different people. And I wrote some really good songs with them, so I got a really good connection all the way through there. And people do, and I find that people will track me down.
What was the first version of your writings? Was it poetry? Was it short stories? Like even as a kid?
Poetry. I started writing poetry when I was about 8 years old, and I wasn't ever a good student, but like when we had poetry week in like elementary school or in middle school, all of a sudden I got thrown to the head of the class because it was like, I could write really solid poetry, and my poems would be in the hallway. They'd put them up and stuff, and then I'd end up in these like AP English classes. Well, I only wrote the poetry was really, really good. My prose is terrible, so I'd be underwater, with these classes they put me in. But the poetry was one of those things that just came to me. It was a gift.
How were you exposed to any sort of literature or poetry to be doing that at 8?
My mother read all the time. My mother sat on the couch. She'd get up out of the bed about midnight, and she'd go sit on the couch and read till about 4 o'clock in the morning and sleep another 2 hours and then go to work. And she used to pay me $0.25 to memorize poems, and so I memorized these poems, and consequently, I found I had some teachers, 4th, 5th grade, 6th grade, that found out that I liked to read, so they would point me to some books that had more substance, not just The Wrinkle in Time or something, but something with substance, and I just devoured those. Those were great. So the written word to me is a standard bearer for everything that we do. It just you need precision, you need clarity. That's how you get it.
So there was a literature background in your house because your mom was a reader. What was your mom and dad, were they still together?
Uh-huh.
And what did your dad do?
My dad was an engineer.
Okay, so when did music become part of something you could stick with the poetry? At what age did that start happening?
About 18.
Did you have music in your house consistently?
Not well, other than records. My mom loved country music.
So,
yeah.
And who does she listen to when you think back?
She loved Roy Acuff and all that, like those people from the 40s. Even Bill Monroe and
like bluegrass stuff. Then,
yeah, and Jimmy Rogers. The father of country music, whose last house was in Kerrville, Texas, where I live. So
the bluegrass, like Flat and Scruggs.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
And their body work.
Yeah.
I know. I would say a decent amount of it, but I think people would mostly know it in the popular vein as the Beverly Hillbillies.
Oh yeah,
the song.
I'm listening to the story.
Yeah. So, but what was your relationship with bluegrass then? And did you Flat and Scruggs? Was that for you?
No, bluegrass came when I went to A&M. So I was So I started playing when I got to A&M and I was 18, and so what ended up happening was I learned some country songs by myself, and then I just started filtering into some people that played music. And in general, it was all acoustic. It was all just about like singing bluegrass or gospel or something like that. And we really did have this porch out there on Church Street. It was a block off the campus, so people came and parked there. And then there were a lot of musicians that came there, and they would say, "Well, can I jam with you?" And they'd come over there and jam. So all that bluegrass just kind of came to me almost, because I knew Rocky Top or something like that, but all that bluegrass. And then I got to be just a huge fan of bluegrass. I was a huge fan of Norman Blake, whom hardly anybody knows, but the fact is he kind of put it all together because he was a great flat picker, and he wrote a lot of songs.
Do you feel like it made you a better musician, instrumentalist to learn bluegrass? That is a very difficult type of music to have to just keep up with.
Very difficult, and I'm not, and I wasn't built for it. I'm too slow. But I want to say, you got all this great technology now, but the fact is like I used to put my foot on the LP like this and slow it down so I could learn how to play. Hear the notes, and I'd just be going down, ding, down, down, ding, ding, like that kind of thing. And I just never could get that, that lightning speed that people had. But so I got to be a pretty good rhythm guitar player, and regardless of what where my voice sits in the world, lyrically I can sing almost any song without thinking about it too much.
Where did you get your first guitar?
My first guitar came from my sister. When I went to A&M, I found out that I was, not the student that I thought I was, and I was struggling. I was also really bored, and I went back home, I don't know, a month after I got into A&M, and there was this old Alvarez classical guitar. It was all kind of beat up, and that was my sister's guitar. So I thought, well, maybe I can figure this out. So I went and strung it up, got this book that's called the 10 Greatest Country Songs in America. And I learned 9 of them, because one of them was The Happiest Girl in the Whole USA by Donna Fargo. So I didn't think that fit in my repertoire. Actually, today it might be kind of fun to do. So anyway, so I learned those songs, and like I said, then I kind of filtered into with all the other people, and then we made this band, the Front Porch Boys, and we had so many different people come in and out of that band. It was like American Aquarium or something. It was like
a lot of people.
A lot of people coming in and out of that band.
With you talk about poetry and your mom saying, "Hey, let's memorize some poems," and then you being around, even just being around bluegrass musicians, you have to elevate a bit, but just hang, right?
Sure.
With those two things together, it feels like that was the. Can you memorize anything, by the way? Was that really good for your brain at that age to memorize poems? Did it help you later in your?
Absolutely.
And then just hearing your music over time, I can feel a bit of bluegrass influence, even if you're going, I don't play as fast. I can still feel a bit of it. I feel like those two factors, which you really had no control over, your mom saying, please memorize poetry, and you being exposed to bluegrass, really influenced the artist that you are.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The fact that you can memorize, that is such a valuable trait to have.
Well, it is good, and it's one of those things that it's helpful in a lot of ways. I memorize soliloquies from Shakespeare, and when I'm going to sleep, when I can't go to sleep, I just start going, "Now is the winter of our discontent, make glorious summer by the sun of York," and I just keep doing it, and then I'll fall asleep.
That's what I do is I just go through and list my favorite Arkansas football players, and I'll literally count them down. You do Shakespeare, I do 90s football. Are you an A&M sports guy at all?
I don't do much sports, but I am part of the A&M system. I'm big in the Association of Former Students.
Yeah, I saw you got the big award there. They've only given that away to a certain few.
Yeah, I know.
Do you feel like did you speak at that when they gave you the award? Do you feel like you have to I don't know, because when I did it, I felt like I had to be a little more proper than I normally am.
Definitely.
Did you feel?
Yes. Yeah, you're kind of under the gun. Even if you want to go, I want to be the coolest dude in the room. Yeah. You have to shave that back a little bit.
Yeah, I felt that. Where I was like, I'd really like to be me, but if I'm just me, that's cool and all. But I need to elevate it a bit.
Yeah.
You have this songbook, the play along book, the songbook that's in this project. It just makes me think of that when you say that that's how you started.
Yeah.
Is you bought a book.
Bought a book
to teach you how to play.
Well, I'm not real adventurous about going to track people down and get them to show me something. So I'm much more of a reader than a communicator.
What's your relationship with Nashville, and has it changed over the last 3 decades?
What has changed is when I first we lived here at 85 to 87. And when I came here, I was just frightened to death. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have really any connections. I was like at zero there. And I always had this kind of, rumbling in my stomach when I just drove in because it would, I'm not big on anxiety, but I guess that's what I was experiencing a lot, And I had a hard time getting in the whole, I didn't even really get in the system. We finally left, but after that, I used to say, I feel like sometimes I can get out there on the road and just be killing it and doing really great shows. And I come to Nashville and I feel like Superman landing on the planet Krypton, and all of a sudden all my strength starts sinking away. But lately, in the last year or so, since I've made my exit and thinking more about doing that, that's all gone away. I'm like, this is the happiest I've ever been being in Nashville.
Why do you feel that is? Are you limiting some of the? It's not even an expectation. It doesn't matter as much to you because you know who you are. You're comfortable with your art now more than ever.
Absolutely, yeah. That's really that's the biggest part of it. Is because if I really gave a damn about all of this, really or really sensitive, I would have gotten out a long time ago. But I'm pretty bullheaded, and I do believe in myself. And then I got to a point where, I've done all these things, and I'm still an outlier. But man, it's totally okay because I like being an outlier. I like doing stuff. It gives me a freedom to write whatever I want to write, do whatever I really want to do. And sometimes, I get the big forbidden zone from some people because they like, the conventional. But in general, people have, opened up their doors to me. I've got lots of ways that I can get around doors if I can get in.
When you were going to college, what was your idea of what you would be doing with your life before music happened?
I have no idea. I really just went, it's like I didn't have a real plan. As a matter of fact, the way that I went to A&M, so I'm driving around with my friend Duckworth's rust red 1972 Maverick, and with the plaid seats and everything, and he's turning the corner, and he's got a big old Folgers can full of snuff spit, and just about that time I said, "Where are you going to go to college?" He goes, "I'm going to go to A&M," and he whips it around, and the whole thing spills over on my lap, and I'm going, Jesus, that's okay. Well, I think I'll go there. I don't know what that meant, but it was exactly what happened.
That was a sign.
Yeah, it was
a bunch of dip spit.
Yeah.
How long were you there before you left?
I was there a good 6 years. Easy.
In College Station.
Well, I got kicked out twice. So one time I had to go back to Blinn, which people
junior college, right?
Yeah, they call it Blender Garden a lot of times. And I always told them when I graduated from Blinn, I got a T-shirt that says "Ignorance is Blinn." So I was like, I had this whole joke thing going about Blinn, but I got kicked out. I went to Blinn, so that was in Bryan. But the next time, I roughnecked every summer on oil rigs. And so when I got kicked out the second time, I just went back to the oil rig, and I worked for about 6 months and got my money back, and then went and begged them to let me back in. I mean, I literally gave this counselor $100 bill and a bottle of Jack Daniels and said, "Let me back in this place, please." And they let me in. So I don't know if that made any difference.
It didn't hurt, though.
It did not hurt.
If you didn't get it back, then it didn't hurt.
Yeah, so it was good, yeah.
You kind of alternative country to me. At least that's what it felt like. Like a not even an defined alt country, because there's a real life version of that. Where it's like, I'm making alt country.
Right.
It always felt like you weren't purposefully. You weren't out like, I'm going to be different. It was almost like you're different and you wanted to do what you wanted to do. It just so happened to be different. Mm-hmm. I didn't feel like you were purposely fighting the stream, but I felt like you were just going down your own stream. Mm-hmm. When did you feel like that was the way to do it? Because most people are just going to go along and try to do what is being done so they can be successful. What was your point where you go, I just have to be me or I'm not going to make it?
I don't know about the third time somebody said I couldn't do it.
Really? In the conventional way.
Yeah, right. Tell me when we first.
Why would they say that though? Like, what were you doing?
I don't know. I would play them a song and they'd kind of shake their head. I had when I first got here back in '85. I had people tell me the best advice I can give you is just go back to Texas and do whatever you're doing. And I was like, that's not what I'm here for. I'm here for something else. I want, So I just wouldn't listen to them. And like I said, I don't know why. I'm pretty sensitive about things, but this was my thing. I wanted to do it, and I believe in myself, and I stick with it. And I'm big on commitment. Like we were talking about the band earlier and stuff. I'm big on commitment. Of saying I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it. And sometimes it might take a few years to get it done, but I keep going.
You've mentioned something that is a parallel to that. Something that's within me is I'm extremely bullheaded and confident, and at the same time, I am wildly sensitive about things too. It's an odd juxtaposition, like right? It's like if you're creating, it's weird to go, I'm creating this, yet I'm not going to be sensitive about what anybody says about it. That. Just doesn't there. How do you balance that? How do you stay out of your own head and have more of the push forward than the I don't know, I'm pretty neurotic? That's what I deal with.
No, I agree. I struggle with that all the time, because. You live your life and you do find out that you make some really bad decisions at times, and you're hoping that this is not a bad decision. But bottom line, going back to it's the word, it's like it's the bottom line. I can still just back up and memorize my soliloquies and write more poems and things like I wrote a song the other day, and it's the first song I wrote in about a year. But in that period of time, I've written 100 poems.
And where do you write them by hand on paper, or do you write them?
I write them on my phone. This is because I'm too bad with paper. I'll lose it all, and so I got where I just trained myself. Okay, I'm going to do this on my phone. So I've got them all on my phone. There's a few on paper, but in general, they're all on my phone.
Is most of your songwriting taking your poetry and turning it into song, or not? You're just writing songs straight ahead.
I'm right. No. The thing about poetry and the reason that I turn to it is because I have to have that outlet. I have to have that creative outlet. So I wrote the poems, but I found out there's this great freedom in writing a poem instead of like trying to attach some music to it. And so it liberates me even more so because I can just talk about anything. I mean, like a good example was I wrote this poem about I was out by this lake and people kept telling me about this giant alligator gar that wasn't supposed to be in this lake, but somebody had slipped it in there at the nighttime, and that like it was eating up all the little fish, and you had to be really careful, like it was the boogeyman. And so I just turned this thing into this big thing about this lake and this alligator gar at the bottom lake, and then basically you get down there and it's the devil. So just like, you can't cram that all into a song, really. I mean, you could. I guess Charlie Daniels could maybe, but
That's true. That's true. Do your poems have to rhyme?
No.
Do most of them rhyme?
Most of them do, probably, yeah.
Yeah, I'd like those. I'm simple.
Yeah.
I like my poems to rhyme.
Well, I think it makes it easier. Went back to memorization. I think it makes it easier for another person, an outsider, to memorize them or really get the whole point. Because when you do free form, it's a lot of times it turns into a laundry list, and you don't want to really do that.
You ever go to rhymezone.com when you can't find that rhyme?
Yeah, I've done that. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I'll go to rhymezone.com and be like, cat.
Yeah.
And then it's got like 500, dat, mat, sat. And then I'm like, what can I fit in? Because if I'm writing like a comedy song, and I'm like, well, I need something that rhymes with bucket, and I can't use the one I want to use.
I have one of those, though. Yeah, I do. I have a song that's called that, as a matter of fact.
How many people do you think found you, learned you from The Road Goes On Forever? What do you think the percentage is? That's how I found you.
Huge.
The live version, which I didn't know was like also the main version.
Yeah.
I was like, man, this dude. And I think I saw you at ACL. Yeah. Like I have a history of like watching you play and listening to your music. But I was like, dang, his live records are this good. But then that was the version.
That was it.
When you recorded that, or did you know that? Did you have a feeling that song was going to be the one that popped so hard?
It's a really good question, Bobby, because I really don't know. I can't assess my own songs really very well. I mean, when I wrote that song, I thought, it was up-tempo, cool, got, some drama in it and stuff like that. But I didn't know it would do that. I didn't know, like, that Christmas song would like give me 14 years on the road of Christmas shows. I have a hard time. And I'll say this by contrast, there are songs that I think are really great and they never catch fire. People they don't hear them, but I love them and I think they're great. And I keep doggedly trying to go, you're going to like this song if you listen to it, but they don't, it just doesn't happen. So I don't really have any idea of what really is a hit for some reason.
Do you have songs that were poems that you were like, I got to turn this now into a song?
Something like that. One time I did this exercise where I wanted to write a song that had absolutely no rhyme in it at all. So I really pretty much wrote it as a poem, but the end goal was to make it into a song. So then I added the music. So that's about as close.
But nothing rhymed the whole song?
Nothing.
How'd that do?
It's great. It's fantastic. As a matter of fact, I got this guy Baptiste Homan from France to sing it in French while I narrated it in English with the music. And he's, that great French thing. It's just, it makes it so sexy when he sings it, And I'm under there, with this and the girl did this and this happened, and it's so fantastic. So yeah, it went. I've never really played it for anybody. It's just somewhere in
oh, you just have it, yeah? Because I didn't know it when you said it. I wasn't familiar with that at all.
I never known what I wanted to do with it. It kind of doesn't fit unless you were like just doing some kind of deep cuts thing. But it's beautiful.
I have the box set.
Uh-huh.
So I have the whole thing.
Sure.
Beautifully packaged.
Yes.
It's a lot of different things. There's a DVD. There's the songbook I was talking. There's just a lot. There's a lot there. Why that?
It started. It just became that. It was like we started with just the music and recording it, and we did record the DVD at the same time we recorded the audio. So that all matches. And after that, it was like, well, we got to have a songbook because this is all new content and people should see that. So we did the songbook. And then I think Clara Rose started talking about like somebody was doing a graphic novel. And I said, well, that would be fun to do. So we started digging into that. And that was the one that nearly killed us because it's a lot of work, a lot of people.
The drawing of it?
Yeah, I didn't draw that. I hired that out, but I managed the whole thing and the storyline and everything. But I even had to get a dialogue guy to write the dialogue because I wasn't as clever as this guy was. He was really clever. So I had the storyline, the whole visual concept, but I had to get that. I can't draw that well. So
no, I get that. I wrote a kid's book and I can't draw at all.
Yeah,
and you have to go and find somebody who kind of represents what your texture is,
right.
Which is a hard thing to do.
Absolutely.
I would say it would be as if you were an artist, and not talking about you, but any artist who writes songs but finds a song that they didn't write but still speaks for them. Like that's rare that can actually happen.
Right.
But I have friends that are really great songwriters, but sometimes there's a song that pops into their world that they didn't write, and they're like, this represents who I am. And it's odd. And I felt that way with finding somebody to draw my words and thoughts.
Sure.
That this person has to draw what I'm feeling and what I'm saying, and that was a more difficult process than I would have thought.
Yeah, it's grabbing that feeling that's the magic there.
You're going and you're doing more shows, but you're not retired. I guess I never thought you were retired.
Well, I am retired. I'm retired really from touring, so I don't have a bus. The band that I put together is the same band that I have, but it's just because it's going incidental. I'm lucky that they still have some space in their calendar. And then, but, the thing was the grind of touring, just getting off a tour and then preparing for the next tour, it never stopped. It never did stop. I mean, it just like kept going. And I just got to a point where I thought it was wearing everybody out. So I didn't think in terms about like just taking a year off, or that kind of thing. I always wondered why those people take a year off. They're like 25 years old and they said, I'm going to take a year off. I said, that's because you don't have any gigs, man. Don't tell me that. I mean, you don't have to take a year off. But I don't know why that didn't really cross my mind. I just thought at that time, and I did feel a certain amount of burnout going on with me. I just felt like I was glazing through a lot of stuff. I wasn't really phoning it in, but I was definitely a little bit muddled, and I really felt like I was losing it, and I did not want, which is the irony here is like I'm still beat up, but I did not want to be one of those people that are all beat up and, they're pushing them up on the stage or getting a ladder for them or whatever they're doing. I wanted to go in the best I could, go out the way I came in, and that was that was a big part of the decision.
Are you looking forward to the shows?
Yeah.
Like with genuine excitement?
Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That you get to revisit that feeling that got you started, made you successful, and gave you longevity. Because it doesn't go away. But if you eat wonderful steak every day, it eventually just becomes steak.
Sure.
It doesn't matter what it is. If you do it all the time, it just becomes normal.
Right, sure.
But to be able to get that again has got to be exciting.
No, it's really, I'm so glad that I did kind of get off my high horse about I'm not going to do anything because the couple of shows that I've played since we did this had just been, they've been this huge boost. And I also realized that there was a certain amount of just adrenaline going on there that like as soon as like it got 2 days before the show or day, the day after is always kind of a little bit of a letdown, but up to the show, I just got this huge boost and I feel better than I felt in like 2 years, like, oh man, I feel so good. And it was all just because it's like, I know what I'm doing. This is a place where I know what I'm doing and I'm ready to go with it, so.
You ever say the wrong place on stage?
Oh yeah. Did
you ever when did you start writing it? When I would tour, I would have to write it. Like I do comedy, stand-up comedy. Eventually I got smart and wrote it down. Because, 2 or 3 nights in a row, you're traveling, you kind of forget. You're just going on back doors of places. You can easily forget.
I know.
When did that bell go off for you? Like, I should probably keep this around where I can see where I am.
Somewhere in Ann Arbor. I was in Ann Arbor, and I got up, and it was kind of a showcase deal, and I got up there, and I said something like, hello, Gary, Indiana, and I was you can't do that again. But I don't write it down like you do, Bobby. What I do is like if I realize that it's going to blank out my brain, I just go, man, it's great to be here. And
just general, vague as can be.
Vague as I could possibly be.
Yeah, I obviously, and I'm not the one that invented this, but I would put it on the set list. But then I would make it like part of the set list. So whenever somebody got the set list, they would think I was making it special.
Yeah.
If I'm in Boston, wow, this is his Boston. No, I just needed to remember that I was in Boston.
Right.
Because, again, and you would know this more than I do, it's not it's fun and it's amazing and for me it's fulfilling, but it's not that glamorous. Because, again, you're just going in back doors and you're killing a few hours in between sound check and the show.
Yeah.
in a bus and not a lot of glamour. Not a lot of people, it's a grind.
No, I tell people, that bus there, you think it's like luxurious and cool, and it does look nice inside, but basically it's a trailer house on wheels, and you're just rolling down the highway in a trailer house. So don't get all knocked out about the whole idea.
Yeah, it is fine. But anything you're in all the time also is like that steak.
Yeah.
And the first night back in a bus, because the touring for me is like country touring. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Saturday. The first night back in a bus, anytime, and I'm in a bed, and I hit the road, those side road. I never sleep well the first night.
The rumble strips?
The rumble strips scare the crap out of me. Can you sleep on a bus?
On and off. I'm not always good. I'm not one of those guys that just like, now I can sleep. There's people that can't sleep in real life, and they can sleep on a bus.
Do you have anything from any other friends or contemporaries that they like, hey, I want you to have this hat or this guitar or something that's special to you that you've kept either at your house or anything like any like memorabilia type stuff?
I got a hat from, speaking of hats, I got a hat from Bill Hearn, who's out in Santa Fe, and he's a longtime musician. He's been he plays at La Fonda and these little hotel rooms and stuff, and he has about 20% sight, born like that, right? But he's a great singer, a great flat picker, and I've been friends with him a long time. And he gave me a hat with the crease would be, they call it a Gus. I used to call it a Tom Mix, but it's creased down this way and slopes down forward, and it has this big band around it, and it has all these little icons of stuff. There's the road goes on forever, and and Christmas stuff, and it's about that wide. It's a beautiful hat. So that's one I like. I keep up there right on my dresser, so it reminds me, I got some really good friends out there, and this music thing
That's cool.
got me there.
What do you do? What do you have that is non-musically or art related at all that is kind of a safe place or a disconnect? Is it fishing? Is it?
Oh, I quail hunt. Quail hunt.
Do you have good dogs, or do you?
I know I have a great dog. I have Rhodey, is an English Cocker Spaniel, and I've been working like last year with a trainer training him, and the trainer had to move from Lakey, Texas, to Kansas, and I even took him up to Kansas and stayed a while with his family, and he showed me a lot of the things that he does, and I always thought the whole dog thing would be just a huge pain in the ass, and it was really hard and a lot of work. But it's the kind of work that's really satisfying. And like I say, I got this really great dog, and he was born to find birds. I mean, he came fully equipped, except for just the fundamentals about sit, stay, and hear, that kind of thing. But
we had good bird dogs. We had a great quail dog. They would point for it felt like hours.
Yeah.
Just point. He'd identify them.
Yeah.
And just
and hold it.
Just hold.
Oh yeah.
Just hold.
I don't know how people get those dogs to do that.
And we had a couple that weren't as good, but that was like so everything was always compared to him. And then we had a great duck dog.
Yeah.
And duck dogs, I don't want to get wet.
Yeah.
Right. I'm
lab,
black lab.
Yeah.
Like identify before he even hit. Gone. Boom. Bring it back.
Yeah.
Before we could actually fight about who shot it, because everybody's shooting up.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had those two dogs, but all of their discipline, obviously translated into like their normal life. They were great freaking dogs.
Oh right. Yeah. No. They're all around great dogs. I mean, I had some labs, but I had one English Cocker Spaniel. He could care less about a bird, but he's a beautiful dog and a nice dog. But then I got Rhodey, and he's all of it. He's a great dog. As a matter of fact, I got so sick about a year and a half ago that I just thought I wasn't going to ever be out of bed. And I give him credit for saving my life, because I would be out there by myself, and he would come and just lay with me. And then like when I'd fall asleep, he'd run out and chase the cats for a while or something and go eat. And then as soon as I just even made a stir like I was going to get up, boom, he's right there. He's like, that's awesome. Thank you, Rhodey.
That's awesome. I want to talk about Let's Valet, because we were talking about Western Chill before you came in, and just talking about the project and what it is. But I do want to talk about Let's Valet, just because the story that was kind of attached to it is like, I don't know, it felt to me like there's some mystery guy in a luchador mask named Taylor walking you around town, getting you in back doors of places. So
it's actually a woman. Taylor's a woman.
See, that's why I'm asking.
Okay.
I felt like it was a guy in a wrestling mask, like didn't want anybody to know who he was. So that's in Nashville. So walk me through that story.
Okay, so it was CMA week, and I was doing some stuff for BMI, and they sent me out to do some red carpet stuff, and I was, fish out of water for sure. And so I knew this lady, Taylor, but she volunteered to come take me around and do this, and she was great at it. I mean, she just slip in there, slip out. And you know how it is. It's like they're pushing you, and you got to talk to this guy. No, you can't talk to this guy. And so she's getting us through, and we got downtown, down there on, Broadway and Fifth, right by the Ryman stuff, and it was just packed. There were no parking spaces. And I said, "What do we do, Taylor?" And she said, "Let's valet." And I said, "Man, people have told me that I should write a song about their grandma who always cooked cookies or something, or they used to have a tiger in their backyard, and that would make a great song." And I'd always go, "That's a terrible idea." and I said, "But Let's Valet, that's a song title. I don't know how it's going to play out, but it's a song title. As soon as I write it, you get the co-write on this one." She said, "Okay." So I wrote the song, and then a couple of weeks later, I had one line that was kind of clunky, and I ran into my friend Dean Dillon, who's just Mr. Everything in writing. He's a Stephen Sondheim of country music, basically. And I said, "Well, can you help me with this line?" And he goes, "Well, Robert Earl, let me hear a little bit of the song." So I just played him a little of it, and he just like well, here's the line. And that's it. So it's a three-way co-write between Dean and Taylor and me. Yeah.
Final two questions I have for you.
Yeah.
You have photographic memory?
No. I have a great memory for numbers.
Do you see them differently?
In what way?
My wife sees words differently. She can, when she speaks it or someone speaks to her, every word's written out in front of her in a conversation, so she spell words backwards, forwards.
Wow.
Like she has,
Well, I want that.
Yeah, me too. The problem is when we have a disagreement and we're arguing about who said what. I know either she's absolutely right, and I can't prove she's wrong,
right?
Or if she's making it up, I still can't prove she's wrong because she just has.
She sells it.
Are you kidding? Yeah. Some people when they play an instrument. I don't have this. They see different. They see numbers, or they see colors, or so. How do you think your version of numbers is different than like mine, where I'm not very good at numbers? Like, how do you see them? Do they just
numbers do just flash up in my head, and like if someone somebody, I know all the presidents' birthdays. I know tons and tons of people's birthdays. I know them in an order.
You know every president's birthday, enough for me to. Fact check that statement right now.
Go ahead.
Hey, Mikey, will you look this up?
Got him up right now.
So I can name any president, even the most obscure president. Mm-hmm. By the way, he has no phone out. This was not set up ahead of time. William McKinley.
It's the 29th of January.
Mike, will you please tell me William McKinley's birthday?
29th of January.
This is crazy. I got to do one more. I can't believe that you can do this. This is wild. Okay. How about, what's the absolute most obscure president? Okay, I'm just going to go with Garfield.
Garfield is the 19th of November.
Okay. Mikey?
It is the 19th of November.
When did you know, and how did you use this to your advantage? This is like a superpower. It's like if Spider-Man never used his webs. Like, this is crazy.
I just, I knew numbers, and I'm not like a academic about presidents, but I do like the presidents. And I thought, well, I could just memorize all these guys from George Washington all the way through Biden, and I bet I could do it. And it didn't take me very long at all. So I just memorized them. I used to have, I can snatch onto the year every once in a while, but the year's a little bit harder.
What about, so then you know every president in order?
Uh-huh.
That's crazy. I don't even feel like challenging him because I just believe him. He just crushed nailing two presidents' birthdays. Holy crap. Well, final question.
Okay.
How much do you want to write from here out?
I want to write
music.
More. Music?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't have a really good answer for that because I want to. My prose has gotten better. Like I said, it was bad. My prose has gotten better. I enjoy it more. I like writing these poems, and this kind of frightens me, Bobby. It's like somebody told me that Spotify gets 600,000 songs a month or something crazy, and then there's a hologram in Japan that has 175,000 downloaded AI created songs, and it's just like, well, where do you find the place in all of that? So that's discouraging for me, but. I mean, I'm me, so I'm going to have my own take, but I'm just in the wash of everything. I just don't know if it's all going to be washed out. I mean, I do cotton to this idea is that I am an artist, and it's really my job to keep exploring that and keep walking into that unknown. And so that's what keeps me going as far as writing songs. But as far as like having a plan, I don't have a plan.
Herbert Hoover.
Herbert Hoover is the 10th. Oh, well, that's a split because there's some people say he's the 11th of August, but he's the 10th of August.
Okay, well, let's fact check that first.
They have him listed as the 10th of August.
Okay.
Why is there the disagreement when he was born?
I don't know. I ran into it in a book that there was, because he was an orphan.
This is the coolest party trick I've ever, not the orphan part, the part you nailing this is the coolest thing that's ever happened here where I'm just throwing dates at you. I barely remember my birthday sometimes. Robert Earl Keen, again, go to robertearlkeen.com, which we mentioned earlier, Western Chill, June 7th. You may hear this months after June 7th. That means it exists right now, and it's got so much in it. It's box set, in box set form, 2023, the CD, the vinyl, the graphic novel, which, by the way, is about 100 pages. Yeah, that's significant.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, my kid's book was like 21 pages. That's nothing compared to what you did. The play along, sing along song book, the DVD. Just been a big fan.
Thank you.
For a long time.
Appreciate it.
Was introduced to you when I was like 22 and moved to Austin and was like, you don't know Robert Earl Keen? And I was like, I don't. And then very quickly you learn who Robert Earl Keen is when you live down there. So it's really cool. Thank you for coming over and spending some time with me. And I wish you the best of luck with this project and
whatever else I'm memorizing.
Taft.
Yeah. William Howard Taft?
Yeah.
The 15th of September.
Okay, just checking.
There's only 2 Virgos in the whole presidential deal.
Who's the other one?
LBJ.
Duh, of course. Right? Of course. All right. Thank you, Robert.